Agra.
Close.
Yeah.
Same letters.
Aye.
Gar.
That's A-G-R-A.
That's Agra.
A-G-R-A, not A-G-A-R.
Whatever. Okay. So it is a worker placement game. The theme is around
Middle East.
Yeah, the Middle East, creating different goods and services that you trade in for victory points.
Yeah, you ship them
Or
down.
coins.
Ship them down the river.
Yep, ship down the river for coins. And coins is the overarching victory points. So that's the overall theme for this. So what you got for stats for us?
So designer is Michael Keller. The artist is Michael Menzel. Publisher is Quinid Games, I believe is how you pronounce it. The MSRP is $54.25. Might be out of print because the only place that was selling it I saw was Amazon. None of the other websites that you would usually see, like Cool Stuff or Miniature Market or Card House or anything, didn't have it listed as for sale. So it's either out of market and it's just available at Amazon and Geek Market, or that's the only people buying it or selling it is just Amazon.
Okay. So let's talk about quality of pieces. So you have the wooden people that are your workers.
Wooden armless people.
Well, they got penguin feet.
Yeah, they do have.
Well, they have
feet.
like, was it Sultan shoes or whatever
Okay.
they are?
Yeah,
They're
that's
I like to
early
think of them
shoes.
as penguin feet.
They're Sultan shoes.
Right.
And then you have these wooden blocks that are used for everything. It's used for your resources. It's used for taking different locations.
It's used for falling down the 3D board many
Yes,
times.
yes. So it's pretty much used in everything. You get a bunch of these. You have a little wooden boat down that way. How's the card quality on this, guys?
The cards are
They're actually pretty good.
Pretty thick stock,
yeah,
but there's
good.
no texture. They're smooth and they're glossy.
In the first player table.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for the fact that you don't really shuffle these too much, you just basically wheel
Right.
them out and then proportion them so that you have a fairly even balance of them. I'd probably sleeve them because of the fact that they're, they are not the best. But as far as they're functional.
So, yeah, so there are a lot of bits to this.
There's a lot of big wooden. I mean, it's kind of strange that they made them as large as they did. I mean, it's a giant elephant.
The elephant was a little bit inconvenient.
Yeah,
So
the
it
elephant's
just
a little
didn't
big.
fit.
These are the pirates from
compared
that Brotherhood, Oath of the Brotherhood, would fit right in with these
I
guys.
think it's because your guy can actually fit on the elephant.
Is that what you think? That's what it is. So you could actually play with these. You can have them on the pedestal too. You can have them on this.
No, that's first player marker.
Well, I know this doesn't go on here either. If you're going to
Yes,
play
it
with the
does.
bits, why don't you let them
All
stand on the
right.
pedestal?
All right, let's say you move that elephant around with the guy on it.
Well,
that
that's
ain't gonna work.
That's why you move him.
Well, I think the little thing on his back, he's not that he's got a
Yeah, he's not
deformity.
selling the elephant's
That's
head.
actually like one of those baskets that people are already riding in. It's not okay. Whatever.
All right. Oh, and you get little bags to hold all your pieces. Those bags are kind of nice. I think.
Yeah.
So let's give this a score,
Oh, you
guys.
forgot the cash register.
I forgot about
the biggest
the
thing.
most important part.
It looks like a cash register.
God, it does.
If you press the buttons, I think you can order a Big Mac with this.
So this monstrosity.
This thing is it's takes up a lot of table space. It definitely is an eye catcher. As
Good
far
table
as
presence.
the functionality of it, we had a lot of catastrophes and landslides during the game. I know that
because everything fits so closely together that when you place anything anywhere else that's near another piece, it's easy to knock that.
Well,
other piece
that
over.
and the fact that all the pieces are
slanted.
slanted because they're intent to be put into this board, but people don't put them in with the slant properly, so they don't level like they're supposed to, so they end up sliding down.
Because that's kind of cool that if you slant it right, all the pieces are level.
Yeah.
Because of the way the slant works. But it's because of everything fits so tightly together, it's hard to do it the right way. So even though it looks cool, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not easy.
And then because they're so close to horizontally to each other, you try to move one and you bump the others, and then you cause a landslide. So it's not the most functional idea in the world, but it does look cool on the table.
It works really well to the theme. It just doesn't work, I think, as well with function of the components.
Yeah. So give it a score.
I mean, it's definitely better quality pieces than what you typically get in a game.
Yeah,
and
because
the
they're
board.
big.
We didn't
I
talk
agree.
about the board. The board is really beautiful. It's
It is
big.
beautiful.
It's
busy,
big.
but it's
It takes up the entire table. It's
if you can't tell.
Yeah, this is a table hog. As far as quality goes, I'm going to give this one probably a 8.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably give it higher if it weren't for the pieces are kind of annoying to me. They're oversized. They're bigger than they need to be.
They're big and chunky, and they don't need.
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean,
so
these
chunky.
look like kids building blocks type
Right.
things. I mean, they're neat, but I don't need an
I like
elephant
this.
that's 3 inches tall. Or
The sun has glitter in it.
I know they did it well. They did it well. It's just overly done. I mean, you don't need that big of a first marker, player marker.
That's I'm fine with. I think the elephant may be a little big, but
I mean, all of these are a little larger than they should be.
well, no, it's the size of the same. It's the same size.
Those are too big too. I mean, it's all functional. It works. It's just it takes up a lot of real estate that it didn't need to.
I'm fine with the size.
I think the only thing that's the appropriate size are the cards. The cards.
The
fit
cards.
fine.
The cards fit fine. Yes.
I'm fine with the size. I mean, I like the bigger size. And plus, if you got older people that can't grip as well.
I'm fine with the bigger pieces on the board. I'm not as fine with the bigger pieces on here. So I agree with Randy. I think an 8 is a good score because it's good and chunky and it feels great. It just makes it a little less functional than what I would have liked.
Well, I don't have any problem with the functionality at all, except for they just constantly fell.
Well, let's be realistic though. We were the ones putting all your pieces on there.
You were over here in La La Land playing on phone while we were
you
doing
had
it.
to mess with that.
Yeah.
Like your poor dad, he was getting frustrated because he kept knocking stuff over.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying
So
that.
yeah, it's great for you functionality.
No, I'm talking about over here and like as far as the player board itself. I mean, really I could see where you guys were getting frustrated with that.
So.
Well, the frustration was we had to keep track of where everything was before your dad would move pieces because everything was going to come falling down. We knew. So it was like, nope, that one was there, that was there.
But you can't. No, but that's okay.
It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's just that if you have anything bigger than pencil fingers, you're going to knock stuff over.
So, all right. Well.
So what would you? We gave it an 8. What would you give it?
I mean, I think an 8's kind of fair. I think there is a lot of good pieces in this. I do think I could see it. I mean, someone could push me for a 9, and I would probably agree because of the bags.
You get mad if we try and push you though.
I will say that if you have little children, this is a game you won't want to leave on the table because you will find missing pieces. Because these are too tempting to play with.
I will say I love the color scheme.
I do too. I thought the colors were great.
The colors of the players, although they think this is yellow, and that was annoying.
Yeah, the
rule book kept on calling it yellow, and they actually had these pictured, so they thought this was yellow.
But that's like a lime green.
It's definitely
like
a green.
Neonish green.
Well, you guys kept saying this is red, and that's more of a fuchsia. What? I can't pronounce.
Fuchsia?
You're having some issues tonight.
I know my pronunciation. I'm like, I'm gonna take the words. I'm gonna take the words and screw them around, but get close.
Right. The fastest on the wrong syllables.
What?
It's a joke.
All right.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
You do realize we have viewers, or we did until we
and
decided.
they'll think that's funny.
Okay. All right.
Well.
All right. So moving on.
Now we're moving on to theme, right?
Theme. So.
Thematically, it's pretty cool. I mean,
it's super pretty, guys.
Yeah, it's not just very pretty.
Although I will
like,
say, setting this up was a beast because the board is not conducive to setting it up. There's like the imagery, the art. This is we had that. What was it? The Regni, the Praga, whatever Regni. This is just as bad, if not worse, of a board.
Nope.
You cannot. When you're setting this up, there's no place that marks really clearly where you're supposed to put things. If you look really close, you can kind of see some arches, and I mean, it was trying to find.
And that's where I agree with Randy because we were talking about it at work too. As like, if these spots kind of differentiated themselves more than what they did, they blend into the board so well. And some of these, it's hard to tell where your bits are supposed to go versus what you should be. because you think your bit's going here, well, you really need to see that, so you know what you have
Yeah,
available.
now I see. I will agree that some of the spaces hide, and you ended up with a lot of melding sometimes because it wasn't a clear designated area. But I do not think it's as busy because even though there's a lot of artwork on there, the artwork's a lot bigger, so it's not nearly as eye-intimidating.
And the arrows are so faded, it's hard to see, like, this goes up to that and what upgrades occur because the arrows are so faded into the art. I mean, it's beautiful art, don't get me wrong. It's just gorgeous. Someone liked the art a little too much, and they say, well, we'll sacrifice gameplay to make the art be more prominent. So it was very hard to see all of this. Now, I do think that the same art is on the other side. And maybe if we flip the board, maybe there's a better version on the... I don't know. I'd have to look at it because when we unfolded
a lower player count on the other side, maybe?
Well, I thought that too, but it looked like it was the same. So I just put it out. But maybe like the art's more pronounced on this side and on the other side is better. We'd have to flip it and see. And I'm not flipping this with all the pieces now.
I do think that if someone has color blindness, they may have a problem with this just because the colors are so similar to each other. I could see it, like if you have an issue with reds and browns, it would be hard to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that being an issue. So, but we're kind of getting distracted from theme.
The theme is still, I really like
art's part of the theme.
Yeah.
Well,
And all the places you're going to get the resources that you need make sense. So you're getting earth to make clay, to make brick, and then be able then to build a statue, and you're making now cottonseed oil is a little odd that then goes to your fabric, but I mean it makes sense because it is a byproduct, but it all makes sense and it's neat, so I like that thematically too.
I agree. I really like the theme in this. I think it's a very pretty theme. I think it is eye-catching, and again, I love the player colors. Give me these jewel tones any old time. And I am...
So what would you score?
Theme-wise, I'd give it an 8. I think it's pretty solid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think an 8's fair. I mean, I like I said, I think most of my frustration was trying to set this up. And we had played this a long time ago, like a year or two ago, and we hadn't got it back out since. It was basically like learning the game again because I'd forgotten there's so much to this game. And trying to figure out where to put things on the board, it was very tough.
See, this is what happens when you have too many games. You always, sometimes by the time you get to play it again, the information is gone.
And I think I will score it an 8 as well. For theme.
Yes. Thank you for segueing there.
Well, I think that might be a different video. So.
And I will end up on the world's funniest videos or whatever.
Or dumbest.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
See, we play a game, we only play it once, and then we move on, and then 3 years later, I'm like, hey, there's that game that we kind of liked. But
so, rulebook. I really...
This was brutal. I thought that...
It took forever.
I thought Praga, whatever Regni, was a beast. This was way worse. It was...
I was bored just not paying attention to you.
The font is super little.
It's very little font. It is very confusing as far as the gameplay. I mean, it
makes you go back and forth. You're complaining about
and there's no cheat sheets whatsoever. Nothing. You're going to be keeping this book out the entire game and referencing it. And we played it and didn't even know what the final scoring was the whole time. We're like, okay, we're just going to keep playing and doing things, and hopefully we'll score points.
And the iconography, even to the end of the game, still was not clear enough to where I didn't have to keep asking, what did this do? I mean, I think you made a point when we first started that it looked like a mathematical formula.
Yeah.
And it does kind of look like that,
but
in a different language, so then I don't understand it that well.
So yeah, I mean, it's like the actual actions here.
Yeah.
I'll conjure one of those so they can see the All right, so I'm pretty sure I derived this back in college, in my calculus classes. It's a it's definitely a very complex formula.
And the rule book just didn't explain it.
No, it doesn't. You have to go through the rules and like, okay, just walk through step by step. And it would have been nice if they gave more examples.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even have a lot of examples in the book. There were some, but most of them were text. There was no images, no pictures to say this is what's happening.
Right.
So if it was text, it was just like, so-and-so player does this and they sell this and they get this much money. And it's like,
and there's so many little things that occur that we forgot some major stuff.
Oh yeah,
and the rule book doesn't highlight that kind of stuff. So even if it didn't have a cheat sheet per se, if it just had commonly missed rules,
this desperately needed a cheat sheet.
Yeah,
the only
really did.
On the back of the book is a summary of the turn orders.
If you can,
and it does have a how to obtain rupees, which this would probably have been useful if we would have read this because we really didn't know what we were doing to obtain rupees. We just did at times. So that would have been probably useful information to have all of us read before we started playing. But we really were so just overwhelmed by the rules by the point where like let's just play it. And
we got it.
We got it, but it took the entire game for us to get it.
And we still didn't get 100%. But we got it enough to where we were able to play the game and I didn't enjoy it. I think for the most part.
Well, I think by the end we pretty much had it down. Although I don't think any one of us could have gone back and played it from scratch without ever referring to the rules. But I think we got it enough where we knew what we were doing.
So as rulebook reader, what would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 4. It was tough. It was brutal. I mean, it's written well, I guess, as far as it is translated clearly.
Yeah, so it's not broken English.
Well, there's a little bit, not a whole lot. There's a little bit of textual broken English, but it's not bad. But it's just... It's no image, very few pictures to help you with things. There were a lot of pictures in the book, but there weren't pictures that helped you like as examples. There weren't too many, and there were just so many rules that they just assumed you were going to understand it, and how you could translate that mathematical formula.
I will say I did not like their iconography. I'm a big, huge fan of iconography. Most of the time, I'm on it. I'm down. These, no.
Yeah, well, if you have this kind of iconography, the cheat sheet is a must. You don't have this kind of level of iconography with no cheat sheet to explain what they do.
And usually, for those of you who don't know, Board Game Geek usually does. They usually have people that will submit things like a cheat sheet and stuff like that. We didn't look into that, so I would highly recommend.
Yeah, we're going by what's in the box. We're not talking about what's online available to help people out because there probably are some people that made printouts and stuff for the game. I guarantee.
And that would probably help out a lot.
Yeah. So
you give it a 4.
I'm giving it a 4 on the rules.
I have to agree because even though I didn't read it, I think
a 4 might be generous.
It was quite boring sitting here because you are having such a hard time figuring it out, and I couldn't help because usually you read it out and we kind of play it out a little bit. We weren't able to do that, and so that didn't really help us learn the game.
Yeah. I do think because I was here for part of you reading it, and you said things, and then you would repeat it, and then you'd repeat it again, and you guys were sitting there and being like, "What does this mean?"
It was
rough.
It has to be probably one of the roughest rule book reads I've had, and I've read a lot of rule books. It's just this was really tough.
Right. So why are you rating it so high then? If it's one of the worst you've ever read?
It's not bad. It's just tough. I mean, it's just there's a lot to this game. I mean, the big takeaway is it definitely needs cheat sheets, and there was nothing.
Yeah. So my question therein is, what level of difficulty is this game?
This is, I'd say, a medium to heavy.
I agree.
It's not heavy, but it's. I mean, once you get playing, it's pretty straightforward actions. There's just a lot of them so there's a lot of things that happen, and when you take an action, you've got pre-action and post-action stuff you can do, and then you got special actions you can do. So there's just a whole lot you can do on your turn.
It really needed cheat sheets.
Yeah, your turn is really much more complex than what a normal game would be. Normally you take an action or 1 or 2 actions or whatever. Here, this one is like you may be able to take 8, 9 actions on your turn.
And to that point, I think that if you've never played this, I would recommend trying to find someone to play it with that knows how to play it.
Yeah, or
before
at minimum, or finding an online playthrough that can teach you it, because this is not an easy game to pick up.
It took us 2 days.
Yeah,
really. I mean, so
yeah, we did 2 nights in a row. Okay, moving on to gameplay. There, like we've already kind of been touching, there is a lot going on in this game. Okay, so at the first round, you basically have the 4 actions above here. With this little circle that you can do, but really the first round you can't.
Well, that's
do.
Let's
get it close up so they can see it.
Ooh. And that's one of the bits that I kept getting confused, is that's the first action that you're supposed to do. If you have it available and you can't do it, you're supposed to be able to do the meditation action.
Is a pre-action that you can take. And that is...
And you can use that to kind of set up and be able to do other actions.
Yes.
Yeah. So you do that, and then there's these 4, which are like build a building, essentially, play for the cards.
Yeah, that's deliver to the river, guys.
Right. And then I never use that actually.
We never use that.
We never use this.
That's to upgrade the flags.
Yeah, this upgrades the values of things.
Okay, and then the last one is where
3 different little actions.
Yeah, 3 little different actions. You get to do 2 of them that are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is taking off
little crates on your board.
Little crates on the board, which allows you to get more resources during the game when you go to a certain action. One that allows you to move your farmer when you get to move the farmer in a certain direction. So you may choose to move your farmer. Look at the player board that is going to pop up here. You'll see that the farmer can go
so you just
closer.
Summoned something.
Whoa, that was a sneaky... You stole my summoning. All right.
All right. So you'll see that if you take the farmer, you can go to the left and be closer to the wood. Actually, it's saffron, I think, if you go to the left. Or you can move it to the right and be closer to... So what you're counting how many spaces are in between your farmer and the type of resource. So
and the farmer on the other side of it.
The 2 farmers.
The 2 farmers.
Yeah, it's 2 farmers. I was just for example.
Right.
So then you count all the empty spaces, and if you remove the cargo, it gives you 1 more. So that's the other thing you can do, and then the other.
It's an increase on your meditation track if you have the resources.
Yeah. The production is an interesting mechanism. I like how they did it, but it's very complex. But it balances because if you increase 1, you almost are invariably decreasing another, other than the first 2 removal of the crates options.
So that's cool. And then the other action is actually producing the thing.
Or upgrading.
Or upgrading. The first round, all you can do is produce these things. But you have to buy buildings to open up the other locations to develop those resources that you initially got. So, and it's across that in the board. So you actually have to open up other resource places.
I think they're called factories.
Factories. Yeah, you have to open those up to be able to move your standard resources into to be able to upgrade them. I like that component to it quite significantly.
I did too.
Yeah.
It made it complex, but really not complex, but more very tactical. Because it's like you build this knowing that eventually you're going to upgrade later on.
Right. And you can strategically choose which ones are most beneficial for you to upgrade. Right. And when you upgrade it, you immediately get when you build the building, you immediately get to use the building, which allows you to strategically plan when you're going to do that when you have resources to actually use it.
Which was really interesting.
And that almost gives you a 2-for-1 action, I think, and so it's highly valued on top of the bonus that you got for actually building the building.
Right. And then you got taking all those resources that you're eventually, hopefully, then being able to
play them down here or play them on this.
Which is, some of this gives you extra actions that you could do.
Or special
abilities,
your player board, or more victory points.
And this is all going to be victory points and getting it. It's just all victory points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have, your notables, which are on the river, you're making deliveries to. Keep pointing and stuff. I want to make sure people understand. The notables are along the river, and they all have requests of items that they're looking for. And you can deliver some items to them, but you have to pay a cost. That's where this advanced formula comes in up here, because you can deliver one for free, but then you have to pay a good of a certain cost and the cost of it determines how many more goods you can deliver. So that's what this advanced math looks like. But you're ultimately delivering goods to these, and you can deliver them all to one, or you can deliver them to multiple. But if you fill a card, whoever has the most contributed to the card gets the card, and it becomes a permanent action for them, or in-game victory points, depending on, or both. And then that's during your action turn. Then at the end of your turn, you get a final action where you can contribute to the cash register, I call it.
Either the top or the bottom.
Yeah, you either can put it at the top where you can, basically they have an icon for all of the upgraded goods, none of the base goods, but all the upgraded goods. And you can place one of your tokens on there and it's permanently on there for the rest of the game. Or you can deliver goods down here where you put a marker on, but only to the one that's selected at that given point in time. So there's a marker.
You got this little marker here that designates which order you can fill for this guild.
Yeah.
So I think we covered most of the rules. We're not going to be able to cover
The other thing, the other thing with this in the middle, since they're looking at the cash register here, we should give them, in the middle here, you got your level of contribution you basically made for each guild. So you want to raise that so that each time you deliver here, you're going to get more coin, but also whoever has the most at the end gets bonuses.
Yeah. So what is the highlight for you for this game, and what's the score you're going to give it?
All right, so I really focused on the meditation track, and I think I enjoyed that quite a bit. I didn't win the game, but it was a pretty tight game. I scored 60, you scored, I scored 52, you scored 60, you scored 66. So it was a really tight game. And so, but that meditation track gave me a lot of abilities, and so I thought that was really neat. So I like that the most, and I think I would score this an 8 overall. It's a good, meaty, heavier-ish game. I just enjoyed it. It's an 8.
Yeah, I want to play it again because I want to actually know what I'm doing when I start playing instead of having to figure it out as we go along.
It's not a big scoring game, just so you guys know.
I mean, yeah. So I think for me, the highlight is, building up those factories and getting access to those higher grade. I mean, I really did enjoy that. And I would also give this an 8. I think this is a good, solid game. I really do enjoy it. I want to play it again. So that's where I'm at on it. What about you, Randy? What's your highlight?
Well, it's a little bit frustrating. I don't think it's as good as you guys do, only because I didn't have a clue what I was doing the entire game. I knew I was doing things to get points. I probably had a slight advantage in the game because being the one who read the rules, I at least had an idea that this was in-game scoring.
Yeah. So
I was already taking advantage of this during the game, whereas a lot, you guys didn't jump into it until I'd already gotten several on there. But the notables were the part I enjoyed the most, but they were the most frustrating part because I had no clue what each one of those was going to give me if I got the card. It was like, I'm going to try to complete that because I have the resources that can do that.
That's the only I didn't look at what it gave me. Because I had no clue.
Exactly.
All I know, I could complete that one, I'm going out.
Exactly. And that's what I did. And then it's like, what's it going to do for me? Oh, it gives me this perk. It would be nice to know if I'm going for this card, it's going to give me this perk.
If it's advantageous or not.
And there was just so much to this game. It was like there was no way you could know that without just everybody having a copy of this book.
But
here's the thing,
fun doing those.
But the thing is you're going to eventually learn the more you play this.
Yeah, I agree.
I get further plays, it'll be more fun.
The question is, are you really going to invest yourself in this game enough with that many plays that you're going to memorize what all these do?
No, I'm not talking about memorization, but I know I feel like part of your confusion was the overall confusion from start to finish from this game, where if all you had to do was look up these, it wouldn't have been so bad. Yeah. But because you had to look up every single rule, I think you were frustrated.
That's a good point.
What is something that you actually liked about the game?
I said I like the notables. I loved, that was my favorite. It's like, okay, I'm going to fulfill this order. I'm going to gain another action, which is always fun for me. I always like to develop my engine, and that was kind of developing your engine, if you will. Although I ended up not using half of them, because it was like this stuff wasn't real beneficial, or forgetting that I had it. But that I always like to achieve that. The cash register was interesting, but honestly, I think I've seen a lot of games do these kind of in-game scoring better. I didn't really care for locking it. And honestly, I was running out of those little tokens in the end of the game because they were all tied up here or on the board, and I was running in situations where I was
that's probably part of the point of the game is, knowing when to balance that. So you're not losing opportunities here because you got them up here.
Yeah, so I there's a lot of things I liked about it, but everything I liked about it had a bad side to it. It was too much, and I really hated, especially given the fact that everybody needed the information from this book, and I was the bookkeeper, so I had to keep looking up on everybody's turn. What does this do? What does this do? What does this do?
I can see that tarnishing it.
It was a very frustrating playthrough.
So what did you score?
I'm going to give it a 7. I think with more plays it might go up.
Yeah.
As we start learning it better, I like enough about it that I would be interested in playing more. But it was very frustrating this playthrough.
I could see that for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you had fun, and hopefully you guys want to hang out with us again. If you do, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We'd love to have you again at our table. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye.